Hello, hello, welcome to Trainer Tuesday. It's a little bit dark in here, but we're gonna make it work. I am super excited to be coming to you guys again with another one of these. So as I wait for people to kind of come on board, if you're watching this on replay, please let me know. I would love to see you guys. I always love when I get comments of stuff that comes up later. You might hear the dogs playing around in the background. Hello, hello. I see some folks starting to come on. If you can see me and hear me, go ahead and drop a comment. Hello, hello. Oh, I see some thumbs up. Let me turn my sound off. Rude. Hey, Susan, you can see and hear me. Excellent. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you guys. Ready, set, go. Here we go with the live. So, hi, Angel. Nice to see you. Hey, Sunny. Hi, Elaine. You guys are awesome. Hey, Michelle. Good morning. Good morning. It's evening for us, but if it's morning for you, I guess go with it. I never know where you're at. Okay, so I'm going to kind of jump into it here. Let's talk about our wins. Totally thought that noise was my phone. No, it was mine. Sorry. Yeah, so let's talk about some of our wins this week. Every week is better. Hey, Veronica, nice to see you. We got a lot of people coming on. Go ahead and drop your wins down if you want to be celebrated. I'm going to talk about my wins. I have a couple of wins to share there with you. Hey, Kim. I'm so glad you made it. I felt so sad. I could hear the heartbreak in your voice. We'll get it sorted. We have you back on the calendar. Okay, so my wins this week. I did that evaluation with Fiona. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that. I made a post, I think it was on my main profile, with like a voiceover of our session of what I did. I was so pumped to be able to get that close to her. Other than, like, she's got owner guarding. So anybody who approaches her human she's claimed, it gets a little bit dicey. So I was really excited that we found a technique that worked with her. We had to try a bunch of different stuff, but that was a great win. Both of my bulldog cases are doing so great. Here's my little plug of things I'm going to tell you guys about. When we break 1,000 members, because we are knocking at the door of 1,000 members now, I will be doing a case study where I bring a family on and we talk about it live and talk about their case and where it's gone from. So there's 2 bulldog cases I'm working right now with some significant progress that we've been seeing. I can't wait to share it with you guys, and I really hope we break 1,000 soon so that we can do that for you. And on a personal note, my shrimp had babies, which is super cute. I had a bunch of little babies swimming around, and then I noticed one of them was black. So now I have like some reverting to their natural color. So I have all of these shrimp. If you guys want to see my shrimp, let me know, because I am obsessed with my shrimp. I count them every day. Okay, let's see what kind of wins we have. Raven lets you give her a bath? Congratulations, Susan. That's a big deal. Way to go. You guys have done such a cool job with it. You guys would be another cool case study to bring on here. Man, you guys are so great. You've done a good job with her. Veronica, excellent behavior with Trip in the bath. Nice. I remember you sending me pictures. How's he doing? That surgery's rough on some guys. I hope he's not giving you too much of a hard time. Congrats on your wedding day, Angel. I know you're so excited about it. Can't wait to hear about all of the details. Elaine, when Zeus is at the fence and made some things going. Yeah, you guys have been doing a phenomenal job. Elaine has been sending me videos, and Zeus had some, he's blind, but he had some fence reactivity starting back up with their new neighbors that moved in, and he was really starting to stress himself out again, so we threw in some of my new techniques I've been learning, teaching them threshold, teaching them how to call him back off, and man, you guys saw some fast progress. That was so great. I'd love if you post actually like a before and after videos of him at the fence, because it's a really great example of, and you just do such a great job. You're such a great student. Thank you, Elaine. And Lillian and Michelle both want me to be posting pictures of my shrimp. Absolutely. I will post all the pictures of my shrimp. He's crashed out in his pen. Good, Victoria. Good, Veronica. Victoria. I'm glad he's not giving you a hard time. Congratulations, Michelle. We have coming back on the leash. Recall is hard to do. Way to go. Sunny, able to redirect Jack at the park with treats with a loose dog that was stressing him out. What? Nicely done. You're doing such a great job. Oh, Bliss, not Bella. Okay, I was a little confused, but I'm glad Bliss is having some recall. That's great. Yes, Veronica, I will be posting shrimp. 100%. They are adorable. It's my nanny's name too. I was just talking to Victoria. I'm sorry. And yes, hey Kim, nice to see you. And thank you, Elaine, for posting up those videos. I'm sure everybody would love to see that. You've done some fabulous work with him. Okay, if anybody else has any wins they want to be celebrated, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you're watching it on replay, drop it in the comments. We will still come back and celebrate you too. I love these wins. You guys are doing such a great job out there. So, tonight we are talking about how our leash affects behavior. Now, that's a really broad topic. Again, I like to pick these huge broad topics and narrow them down for us. So, the overall of what I'm gonna give us a summary here, and then I'm gonna give us some definitions, and then I'm gonna give us some real life examples at the end of each thing. Okay. So when we're looking at how leash affects behavior, we have to first figure out how it affects, right? So number one, we have to factor in a dog's learning history, meaning have they been corrected a bunch on leash? Has there been lots of treats on leash? Does a leash always mean going somewhere scary? What does the leash mean to the dog? What does the gear mean to the dog? What does the action of putting the leash on mean? All of those things are part of the dog's learning history as far as what this grand picture of a walk or what the leash means. That's all part of their learning history. Now, if you've never taught your dog leash pressure games, look at that game, bailout tricks, your dog doesn't know what the leash means, therefore it doesn't offer guidance, which is why it's not relevant, which is when we have really bad trigger stacking happen. Okay? So, the learning history is important. Then we also need to pay attention to the dog's arousal state. So we've already talked about arousal several times, but just a quick refresher for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a dog's arousal state, I just mean basically the strength of the feelings that they're feeling. The more of the arousal, the bigger the feelings, the less the arousal, the least the feelings go down. Okay, so if we are putting a leash on a dog to go out the door and they're already foaming at the mouth, jumping all over us, barking and running circles, that's a dog who's already really high on the arousal chain, and then we're going outside and expecting them to be able to perform at this high level, when all of our training, our obedience is down here. And that's not fair. They don't have any tools for operating in this level of arousal. So we have to pay attention to the arousal level when we go out the door. That's Nita. I know it is. So we have to pay attention to the arousal state before we put the leash on. That is another key piece. If you know what your dog looks like in neutral, know what your dog looks like as it's learning, okay? And then what actual gear the dog is wearing is just as important. So are we on a flat buckle collar? Are we on a martingale collar? Is our collar even fitted appropriately? Is it down too low on the neck? Is it a harness? Is it a back harness? Is it a front harness? Is it a gentle leader? What contraptions do you have your dog on, and how are you attaching to said contraptions, okay? This topic is not going to be about those tools, so I'm going to progress as if we are using, the techniques I'm going to talk about today are all going to be for if your tools are properly sized and fitted. If you don't know how to do that, if you're not sure, let me know. We can connect you to some of those videos. Elaine is on here. Elaine is amazing. She can connect you to all of the things, okay? So that's the gear that we're looking at. So let's define some terms. All right, Susan, what you got? Raven gets really excited when she sees her gear. She's really excited when PJ gets her dress, but she instantly calms down when we get to the door and does well on her walk. Yes, so we can be excited, but she knows what to expect when that leash comes on. It's a great example, Susan. Sunny, I've come back inside many times if there's a potential trigger out front or up back, or gone to the car somewhere else due to potential triggers. It's because you're a rock star, Sunny. I love hearing that. It's like music to my ears, man. You guys are awesome. You're so funny. Thank you. I had so much fun. I can't believe how many tech issues we had at our session, but man, Kim, you hung in there like a champion, and I can't wait to see how this is progressing for you guys. Okay, so let's define some terms so we all are speaking the same language here. So, learning history. What goes into a learning history? We're going to look at the training history, right? Would like to see proper type of gear and sizing. Okay, Kim? Yep. Oh, good. I'm glad that you're learning from me too. That's awesome. So, when we're looking at a learning history, we have to pay attention to the training. What type of training have you done with this dog? What training has this dog had in the past? If you're not sure what type you're using, I did do a live on different types of training. Refer back to that one, okay? What kind of exposures has this dog had? Is this a dog who came straight from the shelter? Is this a dog who lived on the streets? Is this a dog who has lived in a crate for its whole life and it's never seen the world? The number of exposures, the type of exposures, right? Is this a dog who was kept in a quiet house and only taken into Walmart where it's high traffic? Knowing what they've been exposed to is helpful. If we don't know, that's okay. But if we can know, that's helpful. And general rules of the road. So a dog's learning history is basically what they think how the world should go. We know when we're driving in the US, everybody drives on the right side of the road. That is a thing for us. In the UK, it's the left side of the road. So there's not a right or wrong. It depends on the context of where we are, depends on which rules that we follow. Same thing goes for our dogs. They may know how to sit and how to down and how to do all of these great behaviors, but when the leash is introduced, they no longer know the rules because this means something different now. So we have to pay attention to what they've already decided is reinforcing about that context. If you have a dog that's pulling a lot, that means that they've decided the leash isn't relevant. I'm just going to pull and choke myself out. That is the point of a walk. Because if they're excited to go on the walk, then something about that is still reinforcing for them. And we need to make sure that piece stays in with whatever training that you add in. If you have a dog who loves to sniff, awesome. Just put a little bit more control, put a cue on it. Make it a little bit more exciting to sniff when I ask you to, right? Take what they're already using as a reinforcer and just tack it in there. Hey man, this string means something, but you can still do that thing that you really like, okay? Veronica. Acts super scared with leash or prong and runs from me, but then it's on and he's super excited and heads out the door knowing we were going on a walk. If I don't head out the door with him fast enough, he picks up the leash slack in his mouth and does what I call takes himself on a walk around the house till I get my act together and take him outside. I'm not surprised. Trip is hilarious. So yeah, Trip's a great example of a dog who he's scared of he's got that conflicted behavior, right? He doesn't approve of the leash, but he really likes the walk, so just get it on me and let's go, Mom. So that's why I think you and I were talking about maybe switching up his tools, figuring out something else we can do with him, because having dogs with that much aversion, prong collar is not going to work for him. Like it'll work, but we have to do all kinds of backwards training. It's just going to depend. And he's such a puppy, right? Poor Veronica has that awful puppy age. It's a large dog that's in that crap zone of socialization. These dogs are so difficult. You're doing an excellent job. But yeah, that's a great example of some conflict going on to the walk and some trigger stacking that could be happening for sure. So that's learning history. When I say learning history, those are the parts that I'm referencing. What have they been exposed to? How have they been trained around those things? And what do they believe is reinforcing about this context? That's a dog's learning history. Okay. Now, when we talk about a dog's arousal for this discussion today, we're going to be talking about trigger stacking. All right. So if they are already highly aroused at the door and then a deer comes by and then the postman walks up, that's a trigger stacking event and they're going to freak out. Some dogs are more sensitive than others. So if you don't know if your dog is easy to trigger stack or not, refer back to the anxiety stuff. Usually we're looking at really anxious dogs have a hard time. Thought I can't control him. He's a big boy. Licky mat with the leash to reinforce it for scared dog. It depends what you're trying to reinforce there, Sonny. I'll get into the anxious one in just a second so that you can understand kind of how I do it. Every dog is different. Again, this is just going to be a general look, but maybe it just depends on what you're using the licky mat as. And Veronica gets easier. Mainly, you're great. Whipped cream, spray cheese. He's so smart. He knows I'm bribing him. That order is so important. Scary thing. Food happens. They both go away. I'm going to help you. All right. So arousal. We've got trigger stacking. Okay. And then we have to pay attention to, is our dog below threshold or above threshold before we walk out that door? We do not walk out the door until our dog is in working brain zone, whatever that looks like for our dog. Some dogs can work at a higher level than others, right? Our shepherds can work looking like crackheads, whereas our pitties sometimes need to be a little bit more chilled, otherwise they can't think, they can't work. So you need your dog in a working space before you exit your house. We always start inside to give them something to fall back on before we ever walk out that door, okay? Because if we just walk outside and just start holding on to this leash and hope they figure it out, we're not giving them any context clues of what to even do, right? The only reason we know how to use a pen is because we first started with a pencil, something similar. So if we're going to get a dog to go on a walk, we should first walk them in our house, in our backyard, in their safe zones before we get them out the door. And that is where I get impatient. I understand. It's really hard. Cooperative care is challenging at best. I need to post up those videos I did with Bella and Gracie for you guys. Just need to remember to do that. Let me write it down really fast. Okay. If I don't write it down, it doesn't exist. Look, he actually stops when the door opens now and looks at me and waits for the cue. Nice, Maylee. You're another one that I want to get on here and do that live with, because you and Loki have made some crazy progress. I cannot believe those light bulb moments you're having these days. Okay, so we have to pay attention to arousal, learning history, arousal, and what does it look like? So the whole theme of what we're doing, good job, Raven. The whole theme of what I've been doing this month, makes sense. Nina's a nut when we go outside. I know she is. You guys will get there. This month we've been doing body language. I have been posting 1,000,001 words on just body language. So this is so that as we go through the year, everybody can revert back to figuring out what I'm talking about. All right. So what does your dog look like in green zone? What does your dog look like in yellow zone? What does your dog look like in red zone? You need to know these things before you take your dog out into the world. If you know your dog hits red zone like a Ferrari dog and is 0 to 100 in 2 seconds flat, then we need to be working on lower level stuff in the house until you can get them to have an increased frustration threshold, right? We just did that live on frustration thresholds, okay? So let's look at the real life examples, because this is a bunch of heady stuff and it makes sense, but like, okay, tell me what's going on. So we have an anxious dog. What does an anxious dog look like? For this picture, I am presenting a dog who is pancaked on the ground, completely flattened, ears back, big whale eyes, tail is probably tucked, nails are out. He's like, ugh, the world is ending. I'm done. Just kill me now. Right? If we have a dog behaving like this, and we are putting constant pressure on that leash, we're dragging them. Let's go. Come on. It was just the trash can. Let's pretend it was a loud sound. We just try and rip them out. I love all this in the moment. Forget 90% with the leash in hand. Yeah. That's why videoing yourself is so important, because you miss the moments unless you watch it back on video. You have to. So if you have a dog who's pancaked and we're adding leash pressure, but we didn't teach them what to do with leash pressure, all you're doing is adding more stress to a high stress moment. So when a dog is anxious, the first thing they're going to do is try to create space. So the reason they are pancaking is to be smaller, is to get away from. The leash pressure, generally what my humans are doing is pulling. We're pulling from our lats, or we're really rowing it, right? We're not doing any vertical movements. It's all side to side or even down low. And we usually have a long leash that we're trying to wrestle with at the same time. So we have that long line and we have that pulling, dragging motion. We're kind of solidifying that they need to lock into place, because they have this thing called opposition reflex. So if we haven't taught them that pressure means come find me because I will give you the space, then all you're doing is pulling them from one scary thing into a scarier thing. Like, oh, you're scared? Cool, that's fine. I'm going to add some pressure to your neck until you're not scared. Which makes no sense, right? It's another flooding. So when we're dealing with dogs who are anxious, it's really important not to keep constant tension. You're going to hear me repeat a bunch of times, no constant tension on the leash. Mine is held as a handle. He's tall and I'm short. It's 24-inch leash. The best kind. So a scared dog, we don't want tight tension. We want a pulse. You're going to bend at your elbow. Stupid sweater. All right. So you're going to bend here. You're not going to row. Okay? We want to do a curl, not a row. So if your dog is pancaked on the ground, I'm going to pulse and let go. Let's go. Pulse, let go, let's go. Turn your feet the direction you're trying to travel and walk. Okay? So this is not the same as dragging the dog. This is simply saying, hello, hello, we're going this way. It's an up and over movement with feet turned and a step. That way the dog sees that, oh, we're leaving. That's what we want. We want the dog to say, oh, we're leaving, and we leave together. We say, oh, I hear you, that was stressful. Let's just go this way then. And you can just turn in a circle and go right back the other direction. But the dog still feels hurt, right? So if your dog is pancaking all the way, you should be working with a trainer. If your dog is just spooking a little bit, try your best not to add tension to the spook, okay? We don't want to make the scary thing scarier. It's okay to be scared. We're looking for a recovery. So label it, give them food, move on. Trash can. Good job. Car. Way to go. Yes. Here's some food. Just name it and feed it. And when you feed an anxious dog, again, just like with reactivity, we're not chasing dogs with food. Take this money. That's stressful. Nobody likes that. Have them find you. Lure them to you. And we should be facing away from the thing they're scared of. So if they're scared of a noise behind me, I'm not going to say, come here, come here, come here to this scary thing. No, scary thing over here. And I say, come this way. Let's add some space from that thing you're scared of. They're going to be much more likely to be like, oh, thank you. So anxious dogs, pulse that leash. No constant tension. Add distance. Add distance with guidance. Don't run from it. Don't, oh my gosh, I'm scared too. Name it, explain it, move away from it. Okay? Our biggest problem is unseen surprise dogs behind fences along sidewalk that bark or snarl as we walk by. Not even Trip's fault. Miss Susan can talk to you about that one. Raven used to love those kinds of dogs. So let's talk about reactive dogs. That is the next one on my list here. If you guys have any questions about the anxious dogs, feel free to let me know. Reactive dogs. So the difference for this topic for right now that I'm defining between reactive and aggressive dogs. A reactive dog for the case that we're talking about tonight is a dog who is quick to startle, a dog who is quick to lunge, but doesn't actually have intent to harm. Okay? So these are the dogs who are reacting to their environment, not offensively engaging with it. Hence, reactive versus aggression. Okay? So, we usually see lots of posturing with these dogs. That's Nita. Yes, that is Nita. Nita is reactive. So, we see a lot of posturing. The big shoulders, the big chest, the head up, the hackles, the big tail, right? These are those big yellow zone behaviors. Ears are usually pretty far forward. And they're quick. They go from 0 to 100. Usually my reactive dogs are the ones that are not slow builders. These are the ones who you know my dog is reactive because, oh my gosh, what just happened? They're little firecrackers on leash. So what we usually see in these cases is my humans are getting ahead of the curve, and we're doing one of two things. We are either offering food too early or offering a correction too early because we are noticing the trigger before our dog is noticing the trigger. So if I have a dog who's quick to lunge on leash when it sees a cat, I'm holding my leash and I see a cat, my first human instinct is to reel that leash in and pull it really tight. All that does is make the dog, remember, opposition reflex, it makes the dog do this and look. Ooh, where's the threat? So you're just teaching your dog a cue to be more reactive when you add pressure before the trigger. Okay? So a lot of the times, people will tell me, well, treats don't work with my dog. Every time I pull out a hot dog, he doesn't even eat the hot dog. Well, if you're only pulling out a hot dog every time a dog is approaching and your dog is reactive to other dogs, all you've done is teach them that hot dogs predict scary things. So we have to let our dog lead a little bit. Engage, disengage for food. Engage, yes, offer feedback. Trip no longer wants food or even high-level treats on walk, completely refuses the offering, even spray cheese. He probably needs more inside time. He needs to go visit the front yard. He probably needs more sniffing outlets, go outside, check it all out. He needs to be allowed to explore in small areas, right, before we really take him on a walk so that he learns his space before the walk. Because you guys did just move, and with the LGD in him, the livestock guardian in there, that would be the tweaks I would make. So we don't want to be correcting a reactive dog. It's super rewarding to a human to suppress reactivity. I can make him stop. I can correct him. I can zap him with an e-collar. I can hit him with a prong collar. I can make that stop. And all that's doing, yes, it's stopping that loud outburst, but it's doing nothing for treating the underlying reason as to why they are reactive. And that differs for every single dog. It could be anxiety. It could be a wide range of things, okay? So if your dog is reactive, bark lunging on the leash, the best thing you can do is stay below threshold, right? If you're close enough that your dog is bark lunging at things, you're too close. So we back up, even if it's a football field, even if it's 2 football fields. I mean, we had one client who started on the exit of the highway because their dog was so vet aggressive that it became aggressive and barking on the exit of the highway. So that's where they started. They would drive an hour out, exit the highway, sit in a parking lot, give cheese, and go home. We start where we have to. We start wherever is below threshold. We visit the arousal land and we come back down under it, okay? So that is really, really important with arousal work, with reactivity dogs. You must stay below threshold. If your dog is not safe and is not healthy, it will not learn. If I don't know I'm safe, if I'm not healthy, I'm not going to learn anything from you. Right, that dog was wild. We've done some great work with him. He'd go in and got a full exam by the vet, muzzle on, no barking. He can be seen by the vets. He can get everything he needs to get done now. I'm so grateful for all of their hard work. They really did a great job. It was one of my New York cases. It's always fun when like a virtual case has huge success. Because I didn't actually ever, put hands on it. And they get to feel all of the reinforcement of when their dog listens. It's so great. I'm really loving it. So it's reactive dogs. Maybe you guys need questions on reactive dogs. Let me know. Again, talk about anxious, reactive. Let's talk about aggressive dogs. These are dogs who have intent to harm. These are dogs who have bitten. These are dogs who stay at the end of the leash, right? I like to think of reactive dogs as more as vertical behaviors, vertical snake behaviors, right? They're a lot more, they come back to a home base, but they lunge up and forward. Whereas an aggressive dog with intent to harm stays at the end of the leash. They go to the front and they stay there. Or they go to the front and they turn. They have a lot more horizontal momentum coming to them. A lot of times they'll come from under and up. Those are dogs who are actually trying to cause damage. Hey Jasmine, nice to see you. I can't wait to see you. I know you're coming out this week. I'm super pumped. So those are aggressive dogs. Those are dogs with intent to harm, okay? So that's what we're going to see. Now, the learning history with these types of dogs. What type of training usually happens with aggressive dogs? We avoid, so they don't get a lot of exposures. If I know my dog is going to bite somebody, I'm not going to take them around people anymore. These are the dogs who are sequestered in the house for years, and then, well, I thought I would just let them meet everybody at Christmas dinner. These are the guys who trigger stack easily because they aren't exposed to things that are frustrating, because when they get frustrated, they bite, and that scares the humans. Okay, these are dogs that are usually also overcorrected and or fed a bunch in the wrong way. These are flooded dogs usually. Okay, at least when we do our first attempt, our first pass at trying to train these dogs is flooding, because you have to get over it. You just have to, because we panic, right? Which is very fair. I have been bit. Yes, like COVID dogs, Jasmine. Yes. Way to set a dog up for failure. It is an excellent way to set a dog up for failure. But it's what we know. It's what we have, right? I didn't know I was doing it. I've done it with so many dogs. It's wild. I think I'm going to spend either February or March telling you guys more about like my history with dogs so that you kind of know where I'm coming from. I had plastic surgery on this face from a Great Dane that bit me. That pack fight that I broke up, you can still count the teeth on the insides of my legs. That anniversary is coming up. I'll tell you guys more about that as it comes. There's a lot we can do by accident, setting our dogs up for failure, and the humans end up paying for it because teeth first skin, we lose every time. So, aggressive dogs, dogs with intent to harm, have a learning history that is unpredictable at best, right, usually. Now, there's always the exceptions to the rule, so if you are an exception to the rule, ignore me. But generally, these are dogs who have inconsistent training methods, either highly corrective or inappropriate order, or we've changed gears on them a million times. Nothing about it is predictable, so they're using their teeth to make a predictable cycle happen. Okay? When we're looking at their arousal state, a lot of the times, these dogs with intent to harm will be totally fine walking out the door. These are my more tense dogs. They stay reserved, they stay close to the human, maybe right out in front of them, and they walk like a straight and arrow. Super forward posturing, they're really tight, and if their head isn't doing this, their eyes are. They see everything, they hear everything, they know where everything is around them at all times. Any noise happens, they're not going to make a sound, but they're going to turn and look at it. These are those types of dogs, okay? Now, usually they're not really loud about their behaviors because they don't want to have to do it, but they're going to just jump to the top of the ladder. Okay, you can see some good examples of that with Fiona actually in the eval, where her sign of building was just freeze. She would just lock up. These are dogs who they'll sit and you'll go to pet them and be like, he bit me out of nowhere, but he was just sitting. Sitting doesn't mean okay. Sitting means tolerance. Sitting means let me gather my thoughts and I dare you to move. Okay, so that's what an aggressive dog brain is more like. Now, what happens here is my humans try to over-obedience train usually. So sit, down, stay, don't move, look at me. These are dogs who have a lot of built-in frustration of somebody trying to keep them in one spot, usually, okay? And that type of method isn't going to work for them, right? Because then there's really no escape. There's no other way other than to cause harm to a human or something else close by. So with these guys, it's really important that they have a bailout cue so that they know when pressure comes, it always means this one thing that we get to leave now. They need to know what button to press to get out of there because they've already decided that leaving the situation isn't an option. So we have to reintroduce the bailout option in safe contexts to get them to understand that that is in fact a choice. You can smell a leaf and I can bail you out and everything's fine, before we throw them in the face of something they're actually upset with and then ask them to bail. We have to build up a reinforcement history of bailing under safety before we can get them exposed to the things that they're actually having problems with and big feelings with, okay? First 10 minutes, whoa, why did my thing just go to the top of the, okay. First 10 minutes on leash, Hobbs is super easy to run up and greet other dogs, people. His idea of a greeting is like Hobbs tackling Calvin to say hello, would prefer he sits calmly until given permission to say hello with less exuberance. Sure, yeah, so I would practice that in your house. I would leash him up, I would set up like a haunted house, move like a couch cushion in the middle of the room, a stuffed dog, a something, walk him around, have him sit, and tell him to go greet. Now, here's the other thing. If he hasn't been corrected by other dogs, that's just might be how his greeting style is at this point. I don't know much about your dogs. I know we've tried to connect, but you haven't actually booked or messaged with me before. So I'd love to give you more specific advice there, but what I will say is some dogs are just bubblier than others, okay? So everybody knows those friends that from across the supermarket, they're like, hey man, what's up? And they run up and they give you a big bear hug. And that's just their personality. They are loud, big, vibrant people. Sometimes our dogs are just like that. And it sounds like your guy might be like that. So it's almost better to only put him around dogs that tolerate that type of greeting, because to suppress that behavior is almost telling that dog, like, I don't know. If your dog isn't being aggressive, I don't see why you wouldn't adjust the context they're being put in and add some more obedience to help them get exposed and have the tools to handle that. If that makes sense? Okay, Susan, Raven definitely knows bail. Yeah. Yeah, she does. That was like the first thing we taught Miss Raven. Just bail. Just bail, please. Jasmine, how do you tell the difference between an anxious dog and an aggressive dog when they are calm like this? So I'm thinking you're talking about the stillness. So the tricky part is a dog that is anxious can be aggressive. An aggressive dog can be anxious. They're not separate. I'm separating them in this talk just to talk about their initial big feeling out front. So some dogs will initially respond with anxiety, other dogs will initially respond with reactivity, and other dogs will respond initially with aggression. So if you have a dog who's responding with stillness followed by a quick lunge snap and then reverting back, it's probably anxiety. If you have a dog who's staying at the end of the leash, at either reactivity or the aggression loop, right? So with your, yeah, that's a tricky one, Dad. I know what you're asking. And the answer is it depends. Like post some videos, you guys. This is a great topic that I would love to see videos, okay? So think about your leash pressures pulling the trigger on a gun. If you have two dogs going to intro, you want to get them to bail, and you add tension on the leash, you are increasing the likelihood of a fight to happen because tension was added at the wrong time. So when you're asking questions about anxious and aggressive, it matters, yes, but it's kind of like asking, it's Aurora, so we'll see on Sunday. Yeah, we'll see on Sunday. We'll see, and that'll be good. I'll get some video and I'll post it up for you guys because she's going to be coming out and doing an eval this weekend. So I'll post it up for you guys and we'll kind of weed out a little bit more what's going on. But she presents a lot like Fiona, so you can watch my feedback on Fiona's stuff because she kind of flip-flops between I'm anxious and this is how I'm getting control, and I'm owner guarding, get out of my space. There's two different underlying motivating factors, and usually how I label it is based on the direction of the lunge. So a down and up posture, I'm thinking more is intending to harm an up and over posture, and it's probably a more reactive. And we will see Chloe tomorrow. See what she thinks she is. Yes, we will. I'm super excited. Oh, I wish you lived in a house. I know, Kim. I would love to work with you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to get some good videos of these evals out here this week. We've got 2 good ones. And give you some feedback there, okay? Let's talk about puppies. There are puppies that are crazy on leash too, right? So what's going on with puppies? Why are puppies crazy on leash? Let's look at their learning history. They have a blank slate. They don't know. They're just here for a good time, not a long time. They're just bouncing around. They have a blast. They don't know what the leash is about. They don't know what you're trying to do. Oh, there's food. What did I get that for? ADHD energy to the max, okay? So what I find a lot with those humans is we're steering them. No, get over. They do the like robot talk and the jerking all over the place, and he's going to sniff, and oh, he's going to go pee over there. It's the fish on the end of the line, the zigzagging behavior. That's a lot of puppy leash handling skills that I'll see. So those humans, I really like to have them play leash pressure games. You just start in your house, you take a step forward. I know, Veronica. I know. You try so hard, though. So you start in your house. Your dog goes out. You add pressure and wait. Add pressure and wait. If they do nothing, you do nothing. Add pressure, maybe take a little half step back. Scuff your feet. Get their attention. Add pressure, they look at you. Yeah! Run, run, run backwards, offer food. So that the tension means to look for you and to get food. The tension now means something. Right? If you're just trying to manhandle these puppies, usually they're bare, like the boxers, the rowdiness. These guys are hard because we can't manhandle them as much as a small little yippy dog. That's why they get away with it more, right? If every boxer we walked around like most of the chihuahuas we see out there, people would care about reactivity a lot more, I'm sure. So when we have puppies, what you can do to help your puppy best is to stay consistent. Keep your elbow locked to your rib cage. Stay in your net, stay in your zone, and teach that dog in one section at a time. Walk it around your house until it can walk around your house perfectly. Then open your back door and continue walking around your house. Then go up to the back door and move it a couple of times. Then go walk your backyard. Then go visit the front yard. Then maybe go to the end of your driveway. Then maybe go 1 mailbox out. Like, really break it down into bite-sized chunks for your puppies. That way, as they're going through all of these awful and weird socialization periods and growing and their brains are doing all the crazy things and my humans are getting frustrated, you guys can learn together. And what you're learning is what kinds of hang-ups your dog has. So if you find by the time your dog is 18 months old, man, we had in and out issues with, leash pressure when there was other dogs around. Okay, well, you might have a dog-selective dog. So now we know you have a dog who needs help coming down the arousal ladder when they see other dogs. So your puppyhood is all about figuring out what category of areas your dog may or may not be struggling with. Okay? Let me scroll up here. Susan. We originally thought Raven was aggressive, but after seeing a vet, we were told she has severe anxiety that could turn into aggression if she was super uncomfortable. We have learned to read her body language so it never gets to the point where she might resort to aggression. Exactly. So an anxious dog can be aggressive. If pushed far enough, they can and will bite. Some dogs don't, just like some people don't. But anxious dogs are at an increased risk of being aggressive or having aggressive outbursts based from their anxiety. It still is aggression. It's just, it's achieving a different goal is a good way to think about it. So a dog that's coming from a place of anxiety, their whole goal is to stop the thing that's upsetting them or to get that thing to give them space, right? They just want to stay still and not be acknowledged. A dog with more offensive aggression is a dog who says, I'm uncomfortable, you must move. That's a dog who's a little bit rowdier, right? Versus an anxious dog that's like, please just, I would rather not. That's a good way to gauge it, okay? The 3 pups in the house, good in the house, outside they don't know who I am. It's very common because they literally don't know. It happens all the time. You can visit outside world. You can walk out, walk back in. Leashes can appear outside. Leashes mean treats until you can put it on them. You can rebuild it. There's lots of different ways around that if you actually wanted to work on it. But sometimes it's not worth the battle. These are minds that act like they have no clue who we are. Yeah, I am a real life human. That does happen to me. The other night I was working away on my computer and the dogs were out eating, and I look up and Lady had taken all the egg cartons and shredded them on my bed. It's like, guys, I know I didn't give you any celery, but why are we shredding things? So yeah, leash stuff is just, it's such a human thing to pull it out. And why is my dog acting crazy? I just want to take you on a stupid walk. It's really hard. Everybody, there's like shame, right? There's the human piece of this, which is the shame, the embarrassment when you're walking a dog who's reality, who's aggressive, who's reactive, who's uncontrolled on a leash. There's a lot of human feelings that happen on that side of the leash. And if you're not aware of them, if you're not practicing how to behave during them, talking to other humans, amen, we're just training. If you're not comfortable communicating to other humans, just stay in your house for a little bit longer until you and your dog have the confidence to take on the world together, right? Nothing wrong with that. I'm an anxious person. I've told you guys many times, and this is a hill I will die on. If I was a dog, I would need a muzzle. Period. I don't play nice with others. Okay? That's my Jack to T. Poor Jack. Trip treats encounters on walks like dogs and people running like Mario Kart. XP for meeting and running them over. Because he can. It's so reinforcing for Trip to just touch things. Like, oh my god, I touched it. I touched it. Did you see what I did, Mom? I touched it. It feels like failure. I know. It's so, when I first started walking dogs, you guys, I would load 7 dogs up into my car, put them all on leashes, strap on my army boots, and literally lean back and go for a ride until they tangled their leashes up so tight they were basically choking themselves out. And I was like, okay, they're tired now. It's been 2 miles. Let's go home. And my knees were all swollen. It was exhausting. It was awful. I used to hate walking my dogs. I can barely do it now because of all my disabilities. But there are much softer ways to getting your dogs walked that I've learned that I love teaching people about now. Felt this to my core. It used to be like that with my anxiety and dog. Once I start speaking for her, she seemed to be like, they totally do, because then the other humans stop acting so damn weird. You ever been standing there with a reactive dog and the other people just freeze? Like, do you got it? My dog's friendly. Go away, I'm training. Don't you see what I'm doing here? Just practice talking to the people. Hey, we're just training. Please keep going. Thanks. Love that. I like my humans to have a human buffer. If you're lucky enough to have 2 people helping, have somebody just walk out in front of you and call it out. Hey, there's a dog coming up on the left. Hey, man, we're just working. So one person's working the dog and one person's working the humans. That's what I do when I do client sessions. I walk to the other humans. I handle the humans so that they can handle the dog. We take turns. That way you can feel what it's like to do both of them. It's really important. It's a good skill to practice. I have no problem telling others we are training. Some take it well, others do not. I have to advocate for my pup. She can't do it on her own. Absolutely. Freeze her sympathy. Yes. This is a real common thing that happens out there. So the biggest thing I want people to take away from this is no constant tension on your leash. Constant tension is constant frustration. You're not doing anything except for frustrating your dog and yourself. So we pulse and release. No pressure longer than it takes to say the word hey. Tight hand, loose leash. Drop your shoulder. No reeling in the fish before the stressful thing is coming. Tighten your hand. Do a double leash lock. If you don't know what that is, check out in the group. I did a leash handling live on how to do your leash. Okay? It was my buffer for the longest time. I was lost when she was around. It's an important thing. People need human buffers. I need a buffer when I go to the VA. I can't handle the VA by myself. I have to take a service human. Just ask Anissa. She went with me last time. I can't do it. Recognize that you need help, and that's fine. We can do a buffer. Absolutely. So, no type tension for long periods of time. Only tension long enough to say the word hey. We want to make sure that we are not reeling in the leash. Tight hand, loose leash. Take a breath. And if your dog doesn't know the cue in the house, don't say it in the walk. If your dog doesn't know leave it perfectly, don't say it on the walk. Don't do it. If your dog doesn't know what turn means, don't say it on the walk. If your dog doesn't know what 1 pulse versus 2 pulses mean, don't use it on the walk. If your dog is above threshold, bail. If your dog is barking and lunging and you can get out of the situation, get out of the situation. And see how far you have to get away before your dog calms down. And that's your new working threshold. And if you get lost, post a video up to the group. Ask some questions in the group. Shoot me a message. Let's talk about it. A lot of this stuff just is simple timing tweaks, and it can make light years of difference, okay? Try to remember there's no, not wrap hands when I see the dog first. It's so hard. It's so ingrained sometimes. Trip forgot what turn meant when his puppy brain branches redeveloped. Isn't that hilarious when they just forget things? I know what you meant, Elaine. You're good. I know he was perfect at turn. I taught him. I've been working with you guys since he was like 10 weeks old. Damn straight he knows how to turn. He just forgot. He no longer knows how to turn. He's a new dog. He's a new man. He's a teenager now. Alright, you guys, that's all the content I had for you guys tonight. I hope you liked this topic. Thank you guys for all of the feedback. I love when people are so engaged. This is really fun for me. Again, help me break 1,000 members. We're really close, which is kind of scary, but I'm really excited about it. So let's break 1,000 members so we can start doing some of these live case studies. There are a lot of case studies out there, but usually what I see trainers putting out is just the dog side. But I really want to be bringing to you guys the human side, right? What kinds of tools does the family need to be able to work with dogs that are tough cases? What kind of things, how to learn, what type of questions to even ask? So you're welcome, you guys. Thank you. We'll forget in an hour and message you in 2. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Elaine, for all of your help. You have been amazing. You guys, we've already, we were at 930 members at the beginning of January, and we're already close to breaking 1,000. Thank you, guys. Invite all your friends. This is super exciting for me. I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you. Bye.